cannot be screen sharing.
Yeah, because I have to stop
stops.
my screen share. Yeah,
cool.
That's true.
Okay.
This is very true.
So I hope everybody see my screen. I'm really happy to be part of this first online Stahlstadt meetup JS out there in these crazy times. So this will be how we are going to go headless with nuxt.js, and it will be fast and furious. But as this is the StahlstadtJS, I don't have to do it like under 20 minutes. So hopefully it will be a little bit slower. And if you visited the global vue.js meetup, then you already heard this, just super, super fast. So first of all, this is story how to connect nuxt.js, which is the framework I really, really love, with the Storyblock, which is another headless CMS I really loved and currently also working for. But I first loved it and then I joined them. As now I should change. So something very quickly about me. I was like working a lot of few years as a front-end and design ops. Now I'm working mainly as a developer relationship, which means that I'm doing much more development as before probably, and experimenting with a lot of stuff. And I'm a big Star Wars fan, so if you want to talk about the Star Wars, I'm like happy also answer all the Star Wars questions in the chat. But I don't like the slides, and that's why I am not showing a lot of slides. I am basically jumping directly to the code, and it will be not so fast as usual. But let's start the project from the scratch, from basically zero. Start the nuxt.js project connected to the Storyblock CMS, the headless CMS, and then see how we could like very fastly create something like a simple blog page with articles, etc. So first step you should do is basically just open your terminal and write and use a create Nuxt app, which you can install. And then very simply just set yarn create Nuxt app and give a name and hit enter. Then basically there is a very nice step-by-step tutorial where you can choose a few things. What would I like to say? It's basically I just setting now the JavaScript. I will be going for Yarn because I like Yarn. And we will be using a Tailwind CSS, which also I think is pretty nice framework for CSS. So really like check it out. And the rest in this moment really doesn't matter because it takes some time. We are not going to do nothing here, nothing universals and JS. That's it. And now it's happening installing, but it will be fast. So I just jump directly in my VS Code, and this is what you will get at the moment of after installing. So what you should do now. At this moment, and I need to check my notes because this I have to keep them on the screen. So what you do now, and right in this moment, we should check if the nuxt.js is working. So let's jump to yarn dev. And if you didn't do anything with the Nuxt before, it's basically I should have on the local host running application. So on the local host, I should see the welcome screen of the Nuxt.js, and there's like documentation, GitHub, and it's great. It's working, nicely done. So what is the next step? We basically set up the Nuxt.js environment with the Tailwind CSS, with .env file, and with basic setup. The next thing, what we need to do is create a space where we store all of content, and this is basically the Storyblock. So after logging into Storyblock, you will see the similar screen as this, and all you need to do is create a new space. After the yes, yeah, of course. I heard that we should do this a little bit bigger, as I didn't prepare. So here you can choose a play with demo because we don't have a time to create all the content. So in this moment, I am choosing play with demo and creating. Oh, and I did wrong. So sorry, let's get back because we don't want to create play with demo. That's something different. I just want to create a new space, and I just want to give it name. So sorry for that. I should prepare better. So let's call it blazingly fast showcase. And after creating space, we are just jumping directly into the space of the project. And we already created some default or demo content for you. As we are already advanced user, we can skip the step-by-step tutorial here, and we can jump to the first content we have. As you can see here on the left side, we are in the content, and this is our first entry, our first story, which represents our homepage. And if I open it, I see something which is very similar to many of you. On the right side, I would see I would see a teasers and grid. which are in this case just a editor where I can create and play with them. So in this case, this is a very simple Hello World content. And you can see here, there's a teaser with the name Hello World, and I can create some structure. So inside of the grid, there are different features, and I can add more features here, and it will be like feature 4, etc. On the left side, there should be a preview of my website, but at this moment, I didn't create any connection between the nuxt.js and my content. So we don't see here anything. And most important right now for us in this moment is just the API token I see here. So the question is how to connect my preview with my Nuxt.js project with my space in the story block. And this is pretty simple. We just jump back to the code, and I will stop the dev code. And somebody is still writing me, sorry. And here, we just have to install the Storyblock Nuxt plugin. So in this case, it's super easy. Just here add Storyblock Nuxt. And as I already prepared for this, it's already installed. So what is the next one you need to do? As I said, we had the token. I showed the token. So I just now go to Nuxt config file and just scroll a little bit down. And there is a simple setup for the Nuxt plugin. All I need to do is just uncomment these lines, which I already prepared. You will have to write them, and there's the access token. So, okay, what I need to do is to use the access token here. So let's use this access token I have from my content, but from my space, save it, and one more time, start our repo, our project. So on the localhost, there should still run the Nuxt.js, and as you can see, the Nuxt.js is still running correctly, and there's nothing wrong. We already connected it even, but there is still like we didn't show any components. There's like nothing changed, and we even still don't see it here. If I do a reload, you can see there is no change. So why don't I see it anything here? And the one thing, why don't I see anything here? I didn't tell my space what I want to show here. So as you can see here, I should probably see here localhost 3000. So let's jump back and let's go to the settings. And here in settings, as you can see, there's a default location, which I would like to show there the localhost because I'm like working on the local project. So let's put the localhost. I just save it and then jump back to the content. And as you can see now, I already connected it with my Nuxt.js project, and I'm getting an error. And this is a positive, which errors are not usually positive, but in this case, it's positive because what we are getting right now in this moment is that the Nuxt.js didn't know about any page, or there is no template defined for a home part. So there is one little trick you have to do for the home page, which is index page and usually doesn't have a name, is that in the config on the right side, you just have to say that the real part for this page is empty path or like just a slash. So after save, I should see the welcome screen from the Nuxt.js, and this is great. So in this moment, I connected the Nuxt.js project with my space, with my content, and there is my welcome screen. But there is a content, but there is no connection, or there is a connection, but I don't see the content from the right side in my screen. So why is that? It's because I didn't create any components in the Nuxt.js. So we should create a component for the teaser, grid, and the feature, and even for the page, because also the page is representing a component in the Nuxt.js. In the world of the vue.js, basically every page is a big component which is composed from another smaller component. And this is also the case of the lot of headless CMS, especially the Storyblock CMS, which is built in the principle of building big components from the smaller component. So if I can show you here in the components tab, I will have here at this moment defined 4 default components. It is a feature, grid, page, and teaser. And as you can see, the page is type of the content type, so it's hold my content. And the rest, the 3 of them, they are nestable. So they are used in other components. So they can be used in each other or in the page. So that means that I have created everything on the Storyblock side, but I don't have created it in the Nuxt.js. So let's jump to the Nuxt.js. So next, what I need to do is just create those components. And if you are a little bit familiar with the Nuxt.js, it's very easy. If you are not familiar, don't be afraid of it. It's also super easy to understand. So I have a components folder, and I already created there my component. So one of these components is page. As you can see, it's a very simple code. It's a template which defined my HTML code. And there is like a script part of the component which defined how I am like transferring the data or the content between the component. In this case, I'm expecting that I will get a prop, which is called block, and it will be type of the object, which will hold all my content, and then I will use it here. In this case, if this is a page, I'm just looping through all the content get it through the block, especially in the body part, and I'm creating dynamic components. I'm not going into detail, but this is default vue.js component, which you can read also more in the documentation. This will just decide which component should be rendered in my page. It's super easy, and it will be decided according to the property called block.component from the story block. The next, I need to have a teaser, feature, and grid. So what are those? The teaser, as you can see, it's even easier. It's just render a headline and also expect the block. So the same principle as the page. But in this case, we just basically get a block which holds the headline and other IDs, etc. And we render the headline in some styled mode from the tailored CSS. The grid is basically a flexbox list, which creates a little bit listing and then loops through all the content which we will get, and we will render features inside. So the components will be always feature in this case, as we didn't define any other components. And the last thing is the feature. And the feature in our case, it's also have only name, which will be rendered, and is very similar to teaser in our case. It usually should be much complicated, but it's not this case, and we don't need it. But as you can see, there is no commented code. So what I'm missing, as I don't see it on the nuxt.js project, and what I'm missing is that I have to import them. And how to import them very fastly is just create a very easy plugin in the plugin folder called components.js, and I just uncommented here all the components I want to import. So right now I'm importing all the components, Vue.js components I created, so the page, teaser, grid, and feature. And later I will be importing other ones, and then I can use them. But there is still one thing missing. As you can see on the right side, I didn't get a reload or anything. So why is this happening is also I have to open one more code line, and that's in the nuxt config. I have to import that plugin. So just here, I will say like, OK, I want to that nuxt.js also includes all the components plugin, so all my components defined in this file. So right now, the nuxt.js compiled, and we should see a little bit different. So let's jump to the content. Let's open the home, and we still don't see any change. And the question why we don't see any change, and then why don't see any changes, because we didn't load it on the index page. So the last thing we have to do is go to the index page, and this is our original code, like welcome page, and we don't need anymore this code. We just delete this code and make it a little bit simple. So we do the same thing as before. This is just a little HTML, which will dynamically render the component. In our case, this is the content type, so the page. And you can have a different types of pages. Then we will have a little bit logic here. And the logic here is maybe a little bit complicated at the first sight, but it's not really complicated. I will now go slowly. So what we are creating is a data structure for our page. And this is we are expecting some kind of the story, which we'll be getting from the headless CMS, from the story block. Then we are creating an unmounted event. We are connecting our story block using the story bleach to the nuxt.js. So if we click publish or change event, we will reload the page. And then here, using the async data function, we just define the nuxt.js which have a very nice documentation. You can see that we are trying to we are like asking story block API to getting the home entry from the CDN stories home. So we are just trying to get the data from the home. And how it looks this data, which you can already see here, is that if you here click, you can also see the draft JSON, which we will be getting. I'm not going to insight to this. I just wanted to show you that there is a JSON, which basically I am going to use here, and I am using the draft version. Of course, this is just a sample. If I would go for a real project, then I would don't use the draft version. There will be some if, which will decide if we are going to use the draft or published version. And in the case of the Slack, there will be not hard-coded that I'm going to get data only from home, but I'm going to decide according to the dynamic routing in the nuxt.js. So using the URL, I will find out which data for which page I need, of course. So in this case, as you can see, in the story block, it's already connecting my nuxt.js project with my data. So I see some hello word here, and I can change it to hello Stahlstadt with typo. Oh, with a typo. But I still have to save it to see a reload. And I even don't see the reload because there's a probably bug in my. I should see the reload. OK. So I have to reload it, and this is still not so cool as we could do, because we are now in the modern framework like vue.js, and I would like to see the change on the input event. So after as I am changing it, so how could I do it? Is basically just listen for the input event, and in this case, I'm just listening for the input event, and in that moment, I'm going to change the story content of my story. So let's check it right now. Let's reload it, and it should work, hopefully. These demos. And it, of course, doesn't work. Hello. I clicked that. It didn't reload it. Now it's working. Interesting. See, and at this moment, I don't have to click a save, and you see the live changes. So I can change this to F1, and I can also click and go to page. I can go to grid. I can create duplicate the features, and then I have 4 features. I can reorder the features, and I have live preview how it would look like the content without even touching the save button. And in the moment of the save, I just save that, and I can go away. So, and this is pretty cool for content editors, which can have a directly preview how it would look like. But still, this is not cool. It's just a presentation of the something which is possible to do. So let's, sorry, live preview. So let's create the articles or something cool very fast. I have maybe 7 more minutes. So how would I create an article and preview that article, feature those articles on my homepage? I prepared, of course, a little bit code for me, but first of all, I need to create a component for that. So what I want to do is let's create the article, which will be another type of the page. So in this case, it will be a content type, and it will be not nestable. So I just created a schema or component of article, and I'm going to define a schema of that component. And in this case, I want to create there just title, intro, and outer. So let's put their title, intro, and outer. And I now have 3 just text fields. OK, I'm OK that the title is a text field. I don't going to define more. The intro, I would like to have it text array because it should be a little bit longer. And let's say that outer will be a dropdown of the outers. So let's say it's a singles option. And I would just define it here in this component. I'm not going to load it from some data sources or external sources. So let's put my name there, of course. I will be one of the author. And let's put Dominic there. I am not going to write his name because I will make a typo there, and then it will be a problem there. So, OK, I created title, intro, and outer. And that's something I defined the schema. I can now create theoretically a content for an article. So I would like to have it in different folders. So let's create an articles folder and say that in this article folders, I will be creating only articles. Makes sense, I think. So OK, let's save it. I have articles, and let's put first article here. So let's create first, of course, my first article. That's always the first article should be called. So in this way, in this moment, I see here error from the nuxt.js because I didn't create any template in nuxt.js for the articles at this moment. So I'm not going to create it because that will be very long. So what I'm going to do is just focus on the content. So I change to form only view, and I just write here anything here. So let's write. I really love nuxt.js, so I'm going to just put here something from the nuxt.js website, like nuxt.js is awesome, and this intro will be something about the nuxt.js, and author is it's me, obvious. Okay, so let's save it. Okay, cool. I just create my first article, but I didn't do anything up here, and I can still see it on my homepage. I can feature it. How can I feature it? So I would need to create another component for that, and let's call this component featured articles. So let's create a component which is called featured articles, and this will be nestable. And in this featured articles, I am going to create. Going to add articles field, which will be type of. It will be type of the multi-option, if I am correct. And I am going to say that it will be from stories, and I want to load it from the story from the articles folder. So right now I just said that there will be a featured articles component which I can use somewhere, and I want there be a multi-option which is an option from the article folders. So save it. I just created it, and then right now I want to make sure that I can use it on the page type of the content type. So for example, if I open the page in the schema, you can see here there's only body. And this is the body. I can use different blocks. And different blocks are basically different components, the nestable component. So if I go now in the component and open the homepage, and I try to add a new block, I should see here the featured articles. And I see the featured articles here. So, OK, let's add a feature articles component. I also see here that I can choose my first article there. And now I can save it, but I still don't see it in preview. And why I don't see it in preview? It's logically because I didn't create any component of featured articles in the nuxt.js. So the last thing I have to do is just create this component in the nuxt.js. And that will be very fast, and that will be it. So the component, it's logically called featured article. I just uncomment this code, which do nothing else as before. It just get a title. And I forgot to add there a title. So that will be one thing I need to fix. And then there is a list of my teasers of the articles. In this case, even I say that I want to have here an article teaser, which is a different component also. So how to use this different component is just create it in the component folder. And in this case, you can see that article teaser consists or render my title, my intro text, and my outer. And it's a little bit styled by the title in CSS. And it's here, it's really nothing complicated. As you can see, here is just expecting some data through the props, and that's it. So I save this. I have to also enable it in the component.js. So OK, let's enable it or import it into the nuxt.js. Now we should see that it's recompiled. OK, it's recompiled. So cool. What we need to do is still one more thing, because if I reload, I still don't see anything here. But I already see here that the component is there, but I don't see any data there. And as you saw, I created here the title of the featured article. So let's fix first this. So I just add here one more thing, and this is title. Let's save it, and let's fill this like featured article and save it. OK, I see already the featured article, the headline, but I still don't see the data of the content. And this is because I need to get the data. And I decided that I'm going to get the data through the fetch function. So that is the last thing I prepared for you. And this is also something I have on the page index. In this case, I use an asynchronous fetch function, which is also provided by the nuxt.js, and super simple. So if you can see this code, it's basically, if I didn't load it, I will load my articles I need, or the teasers for the data for the article, into my store. And it's basically loading from the stories, and then I'm looking for the folder articles and the draft version, and then I set it only in the store. And at the store, I just can't show you the store, but it's a super simple thing there, that if I go to store, there is just a reference to JS, which there is a array of the articles, which I fill with the data of the articles. So in this moment, if I go here, and if I did save it, which I save it, I should reload, and I should see here the first article. And this is the, let's delete this because it's too much here. I still have only one article. Let's quickly create two articles that we see more. So let's duplicate this article. Oh, where? I don't see it anymore. Copy. Let's change it to second. Duplicate and copy and third. And the content in this moment is same. So let's change just this new headline. Let's save it. And in this moment, I have 3 articles. So let's jump back to the home. And on the home page, in the featured articles, I have option of 3 articles. I can choose them. And one last cool thing, which I want to show, is like I can reorder them. As you can see here, I can just change the order. But there is one last thing which I like about the Jamstack, is that in this case, you see that the new headline is still second. If it doesn't matter where I put it. So this is the second article, should be first one, but it's not. And this is like, I get my data and I know in which order is this array. So what I need to do is just head to the featured articles component, where I loading my data from my store, and just create a simple sort function, which where is defined that simple function how I should order it. So in this case, I am just calculating according to the index of in the array, and after this, I can reorder even these headlines. So now it should, if I, of course, click it, and I've put the second on the first, then it should, oh, one more time reload. I guess this is cache, yes. And now I can reload it. So, and this is it. So this is how quickly I created basically simple sample of the Hello World article with featured, and connected it with Storyblok headless CMS. And basically in this moment, I would just continue, make it a little bit fancier, and it's done. That's it. Thank you very much. If you want to follow this and want to know more about it, there's like pretty cool guide how to create it into multi-language, etc., etc. You can follow this link. And if you have any question, just write them on the Twitch. I will check them out, and I will try to answer all of them. And hopefully, if there's any urgent question, just somebody tell me, please.
All right. Thank you so much, Samuel. Thank you so much. This was very impressive.